This summary brings together the most powerful moments from the book of Genesis, highlighting key themes of creation, covenant, calling, testing, and redemption. Genesis 1:1-3. God created light from darkness. His word still brings clarity and order into our chaos. Let him speak into your life. God begins with light bringing order to chaos. His word speaks life into dark places. Genesis 1:26-27. You are made in God's image. Your identity is anchored in His design, not your past or your performance. Being made in God's image means you carry divine identity, purpose, and worth. Genesis 2:7. God breathed life into us. We carry His breath, and that breath gives purpose to every moment. The breath of God makes us living souls. Life is sacred and divinely empowered. Genesis 2:15. God gave Adam work from the beginning. Work done in faith becomes worship. Work is a divine assignment, not a punishment. You were created to cultivate purpose. Genesis 2:18. We were made for relationship. Don't walk alone, build with those God has placed in your life. God created us to live in community. Relationships reflect His nature. Genesis 3:9. Even after sin, God called out, "Where are you?" He still seeks us when we fall. Even after sin, God seeks us. His grace reaches into failure with restoration. Genesis 3:15. The first prophecy of Christ. Even in the garden, God had a plan for victory, the first promise of Jesus. God had a redemption plan from the start. Genesis 4:7. Sin lies at the door, but you can overcome it through God's strength. You're not powerless. Sin is near, but God gives us the power to rule over it. Genesis Devotional Summary with verse meanings. Genesis 4:10. God hears every cry for justice. Nothing is hidden from His sight. God is just. Every act of injustice is seen and remembered by Him. Genesis 5:24. Enoch walked with God. A quiet, faithful life still leaves a legacy. Walking with God transforms life. Enoch shows that intimacy with God is the goal. Genesis 6:8. Noah found grace. In a world of darkness, one man's walk with God brought salvation. Noah's story shows that grace can find you, even in a wicked world. Genesis 6:22. Noah obeyed everything God said. Obedience is the language of trust. Obedience, even in the details, is what builds the ark of safety. Genesis 7:1. God invited Noah into the ark. His call is personal and protective. God's call into the ark symbolizes protection through obedience and covenant. Genesis 7:16. God shut the door, not Noah. Trust Him to open and close doors in your life. God controls the timing of access. What He shuts for your good. Genesis 8:1. God remembered Noah. Even in silence, you are never forgotten. Even in long silence, God never forgets His promises or His people. Genesis 8:20-21. Noah worshipped after the storm. Gratitude is the right response to deliverance. True worship responds to grace. Gratitude rises after rescue. Genesis 9:13. Genesis Devotional Summary. With verse meanings. The rainbow is a sign of God's covenant. Mercy follows every storm. The rainbow is God's reminder that mercy follows judgment. He keeps His word. Genesis 11:4. The people at Babel built for their own name. Build for God's glory, not your reputation. When we build for ourselves, confusion follows. Unity comes through humility and purpose. Genesis 12:1. God called Abram to leave comfort and walk in faith. Obedience means trusting the unknown. Faith requires movement. Obedience often begins without full clarity. Genesis 12:2-3. God blesses us to be a blessing. You are part of His plan to reach others. Blessing is meant to overflow. God uses us to reach the nations. Genesis 13:8-9. Abram chose peace over pride. Sometimes humility is the strongest move. Choosing peace reflects maturity and trust in God's provision. Genesis 15:6, Abraham believed, and it was counted as righteousness. Faith is where it begins. Righteousness is credited through faith, not works. Belief pleases God. Genesis 17:5. God renamed Abram to Abraham based on the promise, not his present. God sees what will be. God speaks destiny before it appears. Your name reflects your future. Genesis 18:14. Is anything too hard for the Lord? His timing may stretch you, but his power never fails. Nothing is too hard for the Lord. His timing stretches, but never fails. Genesis 22:8. God will provide, even when the need is great, and the answer isn't clear. He is faithful. Faith speaks before provision is seen. God always makes a way. Genesis Devotional Summary with verse meanings. Genesis 22:14. Jehovah Jireh, God will provide. Name the places where He showed up in your life. Mark the place of God's provision. Jehovah Jireh means He sees and supplies. Genesis 28:16. Jacob realized God was there all along. Even ordinary places can become holy when God is present. God's presence transforms ordinary ground into holy places. Genesis 32:26. Jacob wrestled with God and refused to let go. Sometimes your blessing is in the struggle. Breakthrough often comes through struggle. Don't let go too soon. Genesis 37:20. They mocked Joseph's dreams, but God fulfilled them. No one can cancel what God started in you. God's plans cannot be stopped by human rejection. Genesis 39:2. Joseph was a slave, but prosperous because God was with him. Presence greater than position. Success is not location, it's presence. God with you is prosperity. Genesis 39:20-21. Even in prison, God gave Joseph favor. His presence is not limited by your location. God's favor works even in limitation. Your setting doesn't limit His blessing. Genesis 41:16. Joseph gave credit to God. Promotion with humility brings glory to Him. Humility in success keeps God at the center. Genesis 50:20. What others meant for evil, God meant for good. He is the master of redemption. God uses brokenness to bring about healing and salvation.